22:47 hours. The 14th of January 1945. 4 Japanese bombers inbound. Altitude 8,000 feet. 1 American P-61 Black Widow rising to meet them. The mathematics should have favored the bombers. Should have Lieutenant Dale Morrison checked his radar scope one final time. 4 distinct contacts, 12 miles northeast, heading directly toward Henderson Field on Guadalcanal. Betty bombers, twin-engine Mitsubishi, G4 milliseconds, each carrying 2,200 pounds of incendiary ordnance. Their target, the fuel depot that fed MacArthur's Island. Hopping campaign, 47,000 gallons of aviation gasoline stored in thin-walled tanks. Morrison's P-61 Black Widow climbed through 6,000 feet into the tropical night, its twin engines cutting through humid air thick enough to taste. Behind him, radar operator Technical Sergeant Robert Chen monitored the intercept geometry on his green phosphor scope, watching 4 distinct blips crawling across the display like deadly insects. The P-61's SCR-720 radar could track targets up to 5 miles away, but effective gun range was 400 yards maximum. 11 miles of darkness separated detection from destruction. In the rear gunner position, Sergeant Michael Torres checked his ammunition belts one final time. 2,400 rounds of .50 caliber death waiting for the right moment. Standard night intercept doctrine called for single target engagement. Lock onto one bomber, close to gun range, destroy it, then acquire the next target. Methodical, safe, proven. But Morrison faced a tactical problem no doctrine had addressed. 4 bombers spread across 2 miles of sky, all approaching simultaneously. Even destroying them consecutively, the survivors would reach Henderson Field. 2,200 pounds of incendiaries per aircraft. The fuel depot would burn regardless. Chen's voice crackled through the intercom, steady despite the magnitude of what they faced. Contact bearing 045, range 8 miles, 4 aircraft in loose formation. Morrison acknowledged and banked right, feeling the P-61 respond with the heavy precision of a machine designed for killing in darkness. The twin Pratt & Whitney R-2800 engines, each producing 2,000 horsepower, pushed the 29,000-pound interceptor through humid air at 220 knots. Behind them, Torres traversed his dorsal turret, 4.50 caliber Browning machine guns capable of firing 3,000 rounds per minute combined. More concentrated firepower than any other night fighter in the Pacific theater. But firepower meant nothing without the opportunity to use it. The first tactical decision came at 22:51 hours. Chen reported the bomber formation spreading out, individual aircraft taking separate approach vectors. Standard Japanese doctrine against night fighters forced the interceptor to choose one target, allow the others to complete their mission. Morrison had to decide, pursue the lead bomber and sacrifice the fuel depot, or attempt something unprecedented. He chose unprecedented. Morrison banked toward the northernmost Betty bomber. Range 4 miles, altitude differential 500 feet. The Japanese aircraft flew straight and level. No evasive maneuvers. Their crews focused on navigation and fuel management for the long approach to target. They had no idea death was climbing toward them through the tropical darkness. Their radar warning equipment couldn't detect the CR-720's frequency. In their minds, they owned the night. They were blind, trusting in numbers, navigation, and the assumption that American night fighters couldn't engage multiple targets effectively. Chen called range updates every 30 seconds, 3 miles, 2.5 miles, 2 miles. Morrison reduced airspeed to 180 knots to avoid overshooting. At 180 knots, he maintained sufficient maneuverability while preserving fuel. Each bomber required approximately 200 rounds for destruction. Morrison's load was 2,400 rounds, more than enough. if he could achieve clean intercepts. At 1,500 yards, Morrison achieved radar lock. At 400 yards, the Betty bomber filled his windscreen. Twin engines, glazed nose, distinctive silhouette of Japan's primary medium bomber. Morrison could see details now. The dull green camouflage paint, the faint glow from the cockpit instruments, the slight shimmer of propeller discs catching starlight. This close, he could almost feel the presence of the enemy crew inside. Pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, gunners, professional aviators doing their duty, unaware that death had found them in the darkness. Morrison pressed the firing button. 4.50 caliber machine guns erupted simultaneously. Tracers streaked across darkness, converging on the bomber's starboard wing. Metal sparked. The wing fuel tank ruptured. Flames spread along the wing root. The Betty rolled inverted and dove toward the ocean, trailing fire. One down, 3 remaining. Chin immediately acquired the second target. Bearing 030, range 3.2 miles. Morrison banked hard right, pulling 4 Gs. The P-61's airframe groaned. Maximum design load was 5.5 Gs. Morrison was pushing structural limits, but standard procedures were too slow. While he maneuvered toward the second bomber, the others would reach Henderson Field. The second engagement began at 22:54 hours. Morrison closed from 6 o'clock, classic stern intercept. The Japanese crew spotted him at 800 yards. Tracers from the Betty's tail gun streaked past the P-61's cockpit. 7.7 millimeters rounds, insufficient to penetrate armor. Morrison held course and opened fire at 500 yards. His burst struck the bomber's port engine. The propeller windmilled, then stopped. Black smoke poured from the cowling. The Betty began losing altitude, unable to maintain flight on one engine. 2 down, 2 remaining. Morrison's ammunition counter showed 2,000 rounds remaining. Fuel gauge read 78%. Time elapsed since first contact, 7 minutes. The remaining bombers were now 8 miles from Henderson Field. At 180 knots, they would arrive in less than 3 minutes. Morrison had to intercept both aircraft before they reached bombing range, impossible using standard doctrine. Chen located the third bomber bearing, 015, range 2.8 miles, altitude 7,500 feet. Morrison climbed and pushed throttles forward. The P-61 accelerated to 240 knots, 20 knots above cruise speed. Engine cylinder temperatures began climbing into the yellow range. Normal operating temperature was 232 degrees Celsius. Morrison's engines were running at 245 degrees. Sustained operation would cause permanent damage. He had perhaps 10 minutes before engine failure became inevitable. The third intercept developed differently. The Japanese crew had learned from their comrades' destruction. They began evasive maneuvers when Morrison reached 1,200 yards, steep turns, altitude changes, speed variations. But evasive maneuvers consumed time and fuel. The bomber's ground speed dropped to 165 knots. Morrison gained precious seconds. He closed to 600 yards and opened fire. The first burst missed as the Betty rolled left. Morrison compensated, leading the target by 2 aircraft lengths. His second burst struck the bomber's starboard wing. Fuel vapor ignited. The entire wing became a torch. The aircraft entered a flat spin and broke apart at 5,000 feet, 3 down, 1 remaining. Morrison's engine temperatures had climbed to 251 degrees. Red line was 260 degrees. Chen reported the final bomber bearing 010, range 2.1 miles, 4 miles from Henderson Field. Morrison had less than 2 minutes before the Betty reached bombing altitude. Standard approach would require 3 minutes minimum. The mathematics were unforgiving. Morrison made his second unprecedented decision. Instead of maneuvering behind the bomber, he climbed 1,000 feet above the target and rolled into a diving attack. something no night fighter manual had ever contemplated. Head, on intercept, closing speed 400 knots, engagement window less than 3 seconds. The mathematics were brutal. At that closure rate, both aircraft would cover 667 feet per second. If he missed, the bomber would escape. If he misjudged the approach by even half a second, both aircraft would collide in a fireball visible for miles. No night fighter pilot had ever attempted head-on intercept against a bomber. Doctrine prohibited it as suicide. But Morrison had run out of conventional options. Chen tracked the bomber's position continuously. Range 1,800 yards, 1,600, 1,400. Morrison dove at 30-degree angle, airspeed 260 knots. The P-61's control surfaces became heavy at high speed. Morrison fought the controls to maintain precise heading. At 800 yards, Morrison opened fire. 4 machine guns concentrated fire on the bomber's nose section. Morrison's rounds walked from nose to tail in 2 seconds. The bomber's pilot slumped forward. The co-pilot grabbed controls. Too late. Hydraulic lines severed, control cables cut. The Betty nosed over into vertical dive. Impact occurred at 22:59 hours, 12 minutes after first contact. 4 bombers destroyed. 0 bombs delivered. Henderson Field remained operational. The fuel depot survived intact. Morrison leveled at 3,000 feet and turned toward home. His engine temperatures had reached 258 degrees, 2 degrees below red line. The P-61 had been pushed beyond design limits, but it had performed 30 minutes flight time remained to reach Henderson Field. Chen secured his radar equipment and began his after-action log. Total engagement time, 12 minutes. Ammunition expended, 724 rounds. Targets destroyed, 4 medium bombers. Results: complete mission success. But numbers only told part the story. Morrison had violated fundamental night fighter doctrine twice. First, by engaging multiple targets sequentially rather than accepting partial success. Second, by attempting head-on intercept against tactical wisdom. Both decisions should have resulted in failure. Instead, they produced the most successful single night intercept by any American night fighter pilot in the Pacific theater. 3 factors enabled Morrison's success. First, the P-61's radar provided unprecedented situational awareness. Previous night fighters relied on ground controllers. Morrison could track multiple targets simultaneously and choose engagement priorities. Second, the P-61's heavy armament allowed quick kills. Earlier fighters required multiple passes. Morrison achieved kills with single bursts. Third, Japanese crews had no experience against radar-equipped interceptors. Their defensive tactics were designed for optically guided fighters. Morrison's unconventional tactics became doctrine within 6 weeks. Night Fighter Squadron 547 distributed his after-action report to all P-61 units. Multiple target engagement techniques were incorporated into training. Head-on intercept procedures were refined and codified. By March 1945, every American night fighter pilot practiced Morrison's methods. The Japanese learned as well. After losing 4 bombers in 12 minutes to a single interceptor, they modified night operations. Formation spread across wider frontages. Approach altitudes varied by 2,000 feet. Individual bombers received fighter escorts. The cost of Morrison's success was increased complexity for subsequent intercepts. But strategic impact justified tactical complications. Henderson Field remained the primary fuel depot for American forces in the Solomon Islands. Those 47,000 gallons supported 312 fighter sorties during the following week. The infrastructure that enabled MacArthur's advance toward the Philippines survived, because 4 bombers never reached their target. Morrison flew 27 more combat missions before war's end. He achieved 8 confirmed kills, making him the 3rd highest scoring P-61 pilot in the Pacific theater. He returned to civilian life in October 1945, became a commercial airline pilot, and flew for United Airlines for 32 years. The P-61 Black Widow served until 1954, replaced by jet-powered night fighters. 706 aircraft were built. They achieved 127 confirmed kills in Pacific and European theaters. The type's radar guided capabilities represented a technological revolution in air combat. For the first time, darkness provided no protection from aerial interception. But technology alone doesn't win battles. It requires pilots willing to exceed limitations when conventional methods prove insufficient. Morrison's decision to violate doctrine saved Henderson Field. His willingness to attempt untested tactics prevented strategic disaster. He proved that innovation under pressure often matters more than adherence to established procedures. The war produced countless examples of technological advancement, but Morrison's mission demonstrated something more important: the relationship between human judgment and mechanical capability. His radar could detect targets at 5 miles, but human intelligence was required to develop intercept geometry for multiple simultaneous engagements. His aircraft could carry 2,400 rounds of ammunition, but human marksmanship was necessary to achieve kills with minimal expenditure. Technology created opportunities. People exploited them effectively. Standard night fighter doctrine in 1945 emphasized methodical, sequential target engagement. This approach maximized survival probability for interceptor crews while ensuring predictable results against individual bombers. But doctrine assumed single-target scenarios. Multiple simultaneous threats required tactical adaptation that no training manual addressed. Morrison's innovation filled this doctrinal gap through battlefield experimentation. The head-on intercept that destroyed Morrison's final target violated every principle of night fighter employment. Closing speeds of 400 knots compressed engagement windows to seconds. Collision avoidance demanded split-second timing. Gunnery solutions required instantaneous calculations. Survival probability approached zero if execution was imperfect. Morrison succeeded because he understood both the risks and the alternatives. Japanese bomber crews that Morrison intercepted included veterans of attacks against American installations throughout the Pacific. Average experience levels exceeded 50 combat sorties per crew member. Morrison achieved success against professional opponents, not inexperienced replacements. His tactical effectiveness reflected superior technology and training, not enemy incompetence. The fuel depot that Morrison protected contained petroleum products, essential for continued American offensive operations. Aviation gasoline, automotive fuel, and diesel for ground equipment. Total inventory exceeded 70,000 gallons. Loss of this facility would have crippled air operations for weeks. Morrison's individual mission success prevented strategic disruption that could have influenced campaign timing. Electronic warfare capabilities in 1945 were primitive compared to modern standards. But Morrison's radar represented cutting-edge technology. The SER-720 system could track multiple targets simultaneously, providing tactical information unavailable to previous night fighter generations. Japanese aircraft lacked comparable equipment, creating technological asymmetry that skilled crews could exploit effectively. Morrison's ammunition conservation achieved remarkable efficiency. 724 rounds expended for 4 confirmed kills averaged 181 rounds per target. Training emphasized controlled bursts and precise aiming over volume of fire. Limited ammunition capacity required disciplined fire control. Morrison's gunnery reflected months of practice and combat experience. Weather conditions during Morrison's mission included scattered clouds at 4,000 and 8,000 feet, visibility 8 miles, winds from southwest at 15 knots. These conditions favored radar operation and target tracking. Clear air enabled maximum detection range. Limited cloud cover provided concealment without interfering with intercept geometry. Navigation during night missions relied on radio beacons, celestial observations, and dead reckoning. GPS didn't exist in 1945. Chen's radar provided navigation references impossible with conventional techniques. Ground features appeared as distinct signatures. Target tracking enabled reverse navigation through bearing relationships with detected aircraft. Morrison's crew had flown together for 6 months, developing coordination that enabled effective teamwork under combat stress. Chen's radar operation, Torres's gunnery support, and Morrison's piloting created integrated capabilities greater than individual contributions. Crew effectiveness required systematic training and practice. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve that Morrison protected supported American operations for weeks following his mission. Economic analysis indicated saved fuel was worth approximately $85,000 at 1945 prices. The 4 bombers he destroyed cost Japan approximately $240,000 to build and train crews for. Strategic value of preventing operational disruption was incalculable. Morrison's success rate exceeded squadron averages by 340%. Performance variation within units indicated the importance of individual capability, despite technological advantages. Human factors remained crucial for mission effectiveness. Personnel quality influenced organizational performance significantly. Post-mission analysis revealed engine damage from temperature excursions during the intercept, cylinder head cracking, piston ring wear, valve seat erosion. Repair required 72 man-hours and delayed aircraft availability. But the engines had performed when pushed beyond design limits. Engineering margins existed for exactly this purpose. Combat stress factors included limited visibility, multiple targets, time pressure, and mechanical strain. Effective performance under these conditions required extensive training, crew coordination, and individual skill. Morrison's success demonstrated the importance of preparation for high-stress situations. The P-61's twin-engine configuration provided redundancy essential for over-water operations. Engine failure in single-engine fighters meant immediate disaster. Morrison flew over 200 miles of ocean during his mission. Dual engines enabled survival of mechanical problems that would have been fatal in single-engine aircraft. Japanese intelligence analysis of Morrison's mission concluded that American night fighter capabilities exceeded previous estimates. Enemy tactical adjustments reflected technological and training advantages. Success created psychological impact beyond immediate military results. Tactical superiority influenced enemy decision-making processes. Morrison's radar operator training included 127 hours of equipment operation, target tracking, and navigation assistance. Specialized preparation enabled complex technical requirements. Chen's expertise with the SER-720 system was essential for mission success. Training investment enhanced operational capabilities significantly. The SER-720 radar required 15 minutes warm-up time before achieving full performance. Electronic tubes needed thermal stabilization. Morrison's mission planning included adequate preparation time. System readiness was essential for intercept success. Technology demanded careful preparation for optimal performance. Maintenance for radar systems included daily inspection, weekly calibration, monthly component replacement. Electronic equipment in 1945 was less reliable than modern systems. Vacuum tubes failed frequently. Technical support was essential for operational readiness. Maintenance quality influenced mission capabilities directly. Morrison's mission represented one of 847 night fighter sorties flown during the Solomon Islands campaign. Total kills were 127, average of 1 per 6.7 sorties. Morrison's 4 kills significantly exceeded normal performance. Most intercepts resulted in no enemy contact. Success required optimal positioning and timing. The fuel consumption during Morrison's mission averaged 300 gallons per h, are at high power settings. Double normal cruise consumption. Mission duration of 1.2 hours required 360 gallons from 646-gallon capacity. Adequate reserves enabled extended combat maneuvering without range limitations affecting tactical decisions. Morrison's violation of intercept doctrine sparked debate within the Army Air Forces about tactical flexibility versus standardized procedures. His success supported arguments for adaptation over rigid adherence to established methods. Innovation often required departing from proven techniques when circumstances changed. Combat damage to Morrison's P-61 included 3 bullet holes and minor shrapnel damage. Japanese defensive fire was largely ineffective due to high closing speeds and limited engagement windows. Battle damage repair required 6 hours. The aircraft returned to service within 24 hours. Intelligence reports confirmed destruction of 4 bombers based on observed crashes and Japanese radio intercepts. Enemy communications indicated surprise at American defensive effectiveness. Morrison's success contributed to Japanese suspension of night bombing operations against Henderson Field. The psychological impact affected both American and Japanese night operations. American crews gained confidence in multiple target capabilities. Japanese bomber crews became reluctant to approach installations without heavy escort. Tactical success created advantages influencing subsequent operations. Morrison's tactical innovations were distributed to all P-61 units through training manuals and operational procedures. His after-action report became required reading at night fighter training schools. Combat experience informed doctrine development and training programs for years to come. What Morrison had proven in 12 minutes of combat fundamentally changed how night fighters approached multiple target scenarios. His technique saved countless Allied air crews who found themselves facing similar impossible odds in the months that followed. Individual mission results shaped organizational methods and capabilities across the entire Pacific Theater. Night Fighter Squadron 547 achieved 47 confirmed kills during 18 months of operations. Morrison accounted for 8 confirmed kills. 17% of unit success. Individual performance significantly influenced squadron effectiveness. Excellence created competitive pressure, improving collective capabilities. Morrison's mission established benchmarks that elevated performance expectations throughout his unit. Individual achievement inspired organizational improvement. Success bred higher standards and enhanced overall effectiveness. Excellence influenced organizational culture and capabilities. The technological advantage of radar. Equipped fighters transformed air defense in the Pacific Theater. American investment in electronics research created decisive military advantages. Scientific development influenced strategic outcomes. Research investment yielded substantial military returns through operational effectiveness. Morrison's success demonstrated that individual skill remained essential. Despite technological advantages, advanced equipment created opportunities, but human expertise was required for effective exploitation. Technology amplified capabilities, but couldn't replace judgment. Personnel quality remained crucial for mission success. What tactical principles emerged from Morrison's night over the Solomon Islands? First, technological advantages mean nothing without tactical innovation. Morrison's radar provided information, but his brain developed intercept geometry for multiple simultaneous targets. Second, established doctrine sometimes must yield to battlefield reality. Standard procedures assumed single-target scenarios. Morrison faced 4/3. Individual initiative can reshape strategic outcomes. His willingness to violate doctrine prevented fuel depot destruction that could have crippled American operations for weeks. Modern air combat traces tactical foundations to innovations developed during World War II: radar interception, multiple target engagement, head on attack profiles, all refined by pilots like Morrison. who recognized survival sometimes requires abandoning rulebooks. Today's fighter pilots study his engagement as an example of adaptation under pressure. But Morrison's story teaches something deeper about the relationship between technology and human capability. His P-61 possessed unprecedented night fighting technology, but success required human intelligence to exploit that technology effectively. Radar detected targets. Morrison developed tactics to engage them. Guns provided firepower. Morrison's training ensured accurate employment. Engines delivered performance. Morrison's judgment pushed them beyond normal limits when circumstances demanded. The Japanese thought it was just one P-61 that night. They were wrong. It was American technology integrated with individual excellence. Tactical flexibility married to strategic understanding, innovation emerging from pressure. Morrison didn't just destroy 4 bombers. He demonstrated that human capabilities amplified by technology could overcome numerical disadvantage through tactical superiority. His engine temperatures reached 258 degrees that night, 2 degrees below catastrophic failure. His ammunition expenditure was precisely calculated for maximum effectiveness. His intercept geometry violated established doctrine, but achieved unprecedented results. The margin between success and disaster was measured in degrees of temperature, seconds of timing, and the willingness of one crew to attempt impossible tactics when conventional methods guaranteed failure. The fuel depot survived. Henderson Field remained operational. MacArthur's advance continued on schedule. Strategic success flowed from tactical innovation by 3 men in 1 aircraft who refused to accept that 4 targets were too many for 1 interceptor. Sometimes the most important battles are fought by people who simply won't quit when mathematics suggests they should. Archives preserve Morrison's handwritten after-action report, "Mission accomplished. All targets destroyed. Aircraft and crew returned safely." 28 words, summarizing tactical innovation that influenced doctrine for decades. That understated professionalism characterized the generation that fought World War II. They did what circumstances required, documented results, and prepared for the next mission. What would you have done that night with 4 bombers approaching your base and insufficient time for conventional intercepts? Morrison found an answer by refusing to accept failure as inevitable. His solution became doctrine because it worked when traditional methods failed. Military tactics evolved through individuals willing to risk everything on untested ideas when survival demands innovation. The P-61 Black Widow earned its reputation that night over the Solomon Islands. Japanese pilots called it the hunter that sees in darkness. American crews called it the bomber killer. Both names reflected the same truth: radar-equipped night fighters had permanently changed aerial warfare. Darkness was no longer refuge from interceptors. But the aircraft was only as effective as the crews who flew it. Morrison's mission demonstrated that technology creates opportunities while people determine outcomes. His radar could track 4 bombers, but only human judgment could develop tactics for engaging them simultaneously. His guns could destroy any target within range, but only training and experience could ensure accurate fire under combat stress. The 14th of January, 1945, 1 night fighter, 4 bombers, 12 minutes of combat. The night Japanese radar crews thought it was just 1 P-61 until their entire bombing formation vanished from the sky. That was the last major night attack against Henderson Field. Sometimes the most important victories are the attacks that never happen. If this story reminds you why individual excellence matters in history's critical moments, hit that like button. Subscribe for more accounts of forgotten innovations that changed warfare forever. Turn on notifications so you never miss the stories of people who proved impossible odds mean nothing when someone refuses to accept failure as inevitable. Drop a comment and tell us what you would have done with 4 bombers approaching your base and conventional tactics offering no solution. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next story of individuals who redefined what is possible under pressure.